My 15-year-old daughter started coming home late with makeup, designer bags, and raw hands. My husband said I was being paranoid. When I asked her about the crying I heard through the wall, she dropped her juice and whispered, "It's just for drama club. You wouldn't know it." I stayed silent. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, he was sitting alone in his office parking lot, staring at a brown pharmacy bag and crying into his hands. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone as I called 911 right there in the parking lot, watching them kiss through his car window. The operator asked what my emergency was, and I couldn't even form words at first, just these weird choking sounds coming out of my mouth. I finally managed to tell her my husband was with my 15-year-old daughter, and she kept asking me to slow down and explain, but I was already running across the street toward his car. David saw me coming and his face went white like paper, and he started the engine, but I was already at Vicky's door yanking on the handle, screaming for her to get out. She was crying and trying to cover herself because her shirt was unbuttoned, and I could see marks on her neck that made me want to throw up right there on the asphalt. The police showed up fast with 2 cars pulling in and blocking David's car before he could drive away. One officer took me aside while another went to David's window, and I watched him try to explain that this was all a misunderstanding, and Vicky was his stepdaughter. Like that made it better somehow. They got Vicky out first and wrapped her in one of those silver emergency blankets, while a female officer sat with her in the back of the patrol car. David kept saying we could work this out as a family, and that I was overreacting, but then they found the hotel keycard in his pocket and everything changed. The officer's face got hard, and he told David to step out of the vehicle and put his hands behind his back. They drove us to the station in separate cars, and I held Vicky's hand the whole way, while she stared out the window not saying anything. At the station, Detective Maria Santos took over, and she was gentle with Vicky, but firm about needing to know everything. Vicky finally broke down and told her it had been going on since March, when David started coming into her room at night saying he was just checking on her. The Thursday migraines were when he'd pick her up from school and take her to that hotel, and she showed the detective text messages where he threatened to hurt himself if she told anyone. Detective Santos had this look on her face like she wanted to go punch David herself, but she just kept taking notes and asking careful questions. They did a physical exam at the hospital with a special nurse who documented everything and took photos of bruises I hadn't even known were there. The DNA evidence was collected and bagged, and Vicky had to describe things no 15-year-old should ever have to describe while I sat outside the exam room trying not to scream. David was arrested that night at the hotel, where they found evidence of multiple visits going back months on the security cameras. They charged him with statutory rape and child abuse and providing alcohol to a minor because they found wine bottles in the room. His mugshot showed up online the next day, and he looked nothing like the man who used to help with Vicky's math homework or make pancakes on Sunday mornings. My sister Linda picked us up from the hospital and drove us to her house because I couldn't even think about going back to our place. Vicky wouldn't let go of me that whole first night, curled up against me in Linda's guest bed like she used to when she was little and had nightmares. Every time she'd start to fall asleep, she'd jerk awake gasping and asking if he was coming back, and I'd tell her, "No baby, he's in jail," but she'd just start crying again. I didn't sleep at all, just laid there watching her breathe and standing guard like I should have been doing all along. The next morning I called my boss while Vicky was in the shower for the 3rd time since we'd left the police station. Through the bathroom door I could hear her crying, and the sound of her scrubbing her skin raw with Linda's loofah, like she could wash away what happened if she just tried hard enough. My boss gave me 2 weeks emergency leave immediately, but we both knew it wouldn't be enough time for any of this. Dr. Rachel Morrison was the trauma specialist the hospital recommended, and she came to Linda's house that afternoon for an emergency session. I sat in the hallway listening to muffled voices and occasional sobs from behind the door, feeling completely useless. After an hour, Dr. Morrison came out and explained that Vicky was showing severe trauma responses, but was remarkably strong considering what she'd been through. She said having my support was crucial and that Vicky had been